Let's explore an Edmonton cemetery. Today we're going to walk around Mount Pleasant Cemetery on the south side of the city. We're going to learn about the history, the heritage, and of course some of the people that are buried here and some of the symbols of the stones. As soon as you walk into the cemetery, this is the first headstone you are going to see. This headstone is for Robert Hamilton. He was an air mechanic with the Royal Air Force, and sadly he died in a plane crash in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. So if you visit the cemetery, his headstone is going to be the first one you see when you enter Mount Pleasant Cemetery. Now we're just going to head over to the south side and go over and look at another headstone. And you'll notice that it's a very mature cemetery, lots of beautiful big trees here. Some new ones have been planted recently, but it's a beautiful, quiet cemetery. Right here we have a headstone. It's a family one, but the one person we're looking at is for Colin May. Now, sadly, Colin died at the Grand Prairie Hospital as a result of a shooting accident. He was born in Scotland. His family immigrated to Canada. They moved to Edmonton. And sadly, on October 25th, 1920, he died, sadly, in an accident, a shooting accident. I did actually find some information about this accident, and he had just gone hunting with some friends for the weekend. A gun discharged, and sadly, he passed away. So that's where Colin and his mom and his dad are buried. We're just going to head up this hill now towards another headstone we want to visit. And you'll notice that there's an array of older headstones and newer headstones all mingled together at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. There's some new trees there on the left. They weren't there last summer, so it's nice to see that some new trees have been planted in the cemetery, just giving it more foliage, more greenage. And we're just heading up a little bit further, passing by some headstones. Again, a mixture of old and new. Right now we're at the Shepherd family plot, and we're looking at William Henry Shepherd. He was actually a former mayor of Strathcona. He was involved in a local brewery. He was a businessman, and he built the Shepherd Block on White Avenue. So if you're on White Avenue, you see him, that's the Shepherd. Right now, we're passing by a headstone. We just looked there. It was the Freemason symbol. You're going to see that symbol a lot in this cemetery and a lot of cemeteries in Edmonton. So keep an eye out for that. We're just going to come up here behind this big tree, and you're going to see the headstone for Alexander Cameron Rutherford, who was the first premier of Alberta. He was premier from 1905 to 1910. Now, I do talk about Mr. Rutherford on the University of Alberta Ghost Tours, but something that I wanted to tell you today is that Rutherford, he's buried here with his wife and his son, and a child that sadly passed away in infancy. But Rutherford was a really good lawyer. He actually defended a First Nations man who was accused of murder, and he defended him when other lawyers wouldn't take on the case. So kudos for him for doing that. So he was a stand-up guy and a good lawyer. We're going to head over this way, and again, we're going to see another Freemasons symbol right there on another headstone. Okay, we're just going to head over this way now. Again, some more new trees have been planted. The cemetery staff have been busy. So we're coming over to this headstone now, and this headstone is for a lady by the name of Nancy Irvine. And what's so interesting about this headstone is the symbolism. You see two hands. Basically, the symbol for that is, the symbolism is shaking hands can mean, the final farewell or the eternal bond between the living and the dead. Some believe that it's, God taking the hand of the person that's died, bringing them forward into heaven. Some believe that it's you can tell how rich a person was by the hand around the cuffs, if there's like delicate work around the cuffs in the headstone. So that's a really nice one to see here in the cemetery. So we're going to head up here to actually what's known as the highest point in the cemetery, which is basically the highest point on the south side of the city. Has been for many, many years, and has always had great views, except for the tall trees. Right now we're looking here at the Martin family plot. This is where David Martin and his wife Margaret are buried. Now, the Martins were the original owners of the land where the cemetery is today. David Martin died in 1900, and about a year later, his wife Margaret sold the land to the city. They were looking for a place for a burial area for the citizens of Strathcona. They bought this lot, and this, of course, began as Mount Pleasant Cemetery. We're just going to take a step down the hill here, and I wanted to show you this one headstone here. This is the only symbolism of this I can find in the cemetery. It's a finger pointing up skyward, symbolizes the souls ascending to heaven. You know, I'm going to heaven. So this is here. It's under this tree. I've always liked this particular one. We're gonna just head over this way now. We're going to see some headstones here on the left. They're very old and they're very weathered. Sometimes a lot of the headstones get weathered, get moss on them, get dirt. It's not the cemetery staff to clean them, it's the families. And, you know, sometimes people move on, people move away, and headstones don't get taken care of. So that's unfortunate. But those are some headstones there. Right now, we're looking at the grave area for Dr. McIntyre, Dr. Wilbert McIntyre. There's a picture of him. He was a doctor in the Strathcona area. He was a local politician, and he was really loved by the citizens. He actually loved animals, and when he died, the citizens of Strathcona erected that fountain, that statue there on the left, for him as a memorial, and that statue is in Strathcona area right now. A lot of people refer to it as Gazebo Park, but it's actually Dr. McIntyre Park. So the next time you're in the area, have a look at the park, have a look at that fountain. The fountain was for horses to drink out of because he loved animals so much. So next time you're in the area, have a look at Dr. McIntyre Park and have a look at the statue that was erected in memorial for him. Right here we have a beautiful headstone. This is always a fascinating one on the tours. It's the Woodsmans of the World. It was commonly referred to as Woodman Life. Basically, it goes back to Omaha, Nebraska, and an insurance company. You could become a member of, it's almost like a fraternity, and when you passed away, you would get this headstone. And the older you were, of course, the higher the headstone would be. It symbolizes your life being cut short. They stopped doing these headstones in about the 40s, but you'll actually see these types of headstones, the Woodsmans of the World, all around the world. They're in cemeteries in the States, Europe, Australia, they're everywhere. So very interesting headstone. Just going to head down this way. Now, sometimes a lot of headstones will have where the person is from, because remember, everybody immigrated to Edmonton from somewhere. And here we got the McKinnons. They're from Nova Scotia, and specifically they're Mabou, Nova Scotia. So again, most people who moved out west back in the early 1900s, they were never going to go back, so they put where they were from. Now, this is always a fascinating headstone. It was erected for Susan, beloved wife of A.S. Ferguson, killed April 11th, 1919. Quote, a very regrettable accident. Very telling headstone. So remember, yeah, and lots of squirrels here today. Like so many squirrels. I just seemed like every time I turned around, there was a squirrel somewhere. But it's a very peaceful day at the cemetery, very quiet. A little bit of rain, but nothing too bad. So we're going to just swoop around here now, and we're going to look at John Walter. If you're from Edmonton, you know the Walterdale Bridge, the Walterdale Museum. This is John Walter. Now, he originally worked for the Fort Edmonton. He was building boats. He eventually left the fort, went out on his own, started his own business right where the down on the riverbanks, and he started a ferry business, and he would ferry people back and forth from the Edmonton to Strathcona. That was his business back in the early 1900s. And there's a lot of things named after him, and he was a really nice guy. Apparently on Sundays he let people on the ferry for free if they were going to church. So that is John Walter's headstone that we were just at a moment ago. We're coming down through the cemetery again. Lots of new trees planted, so that's really nice to see. This is a beautiful headstone here. We'll talk about this one next time. Just wanted to point it out to you. This is for the Mitchells. Now let me know in the comments if you have been to the cemetery, if you have family members buried here, if there's anything specifically you want me to cover in the cemetery, any headstones you want me to look up and record, definitely let me know in the comments. And also remember, give this video a like, give it a comment, and please subscribe to the Haunted Canada channel on YouTube. And if you like ghost stories, haunting, and true crime, check out my podcast, Haunted Canada. It's on Apple iTunes, and it's on Spotify. Right now we're looking at the columbarium. This, of course, is where when people are cremated, this is where their ashes can be placed as a place where people can come and remember their loved ones. Beautiful. That one we just looked at was just put in about 10 years ago. Beautiful. Now right now we're looking at this headstone. This is for Joe Clark. You might remember him as Fightin' Joe. He was a lawyer and a mayor of Edmonton. Joe Clark was originally from Ontario, moved out west, became a lawyer. He was a big advocate of exercise and sports. He's the guy, Joe Clark is the guy who got the stadium built in Edmonton. Was a big advocate for getting the Eskimos here in Edmonton. And when they built the stadium, the Coliseum, and they named it Clark Stadium, it was named after Joe Clark. So a big part of the history of Edmonton. Now, right now, we're going to look at this headstone. This is for Cyril Jeffrey Watts. He was an author, an engineer, a mountain climber, and an amateur astronomer. He worked in the Edmonton area. He wrote books like the one we were showing there on the screen, and he climbed a lot of mountains in the Banff area. He did a lot of the plotting for the tracks and the trails back in the day. Now his urn is inside this all these bricks. That's called a cairn. Not the crazy ladies who yell at you, but this is called a cairn, where it's rocks built together, almost like a marking spot when you're walking or hiking. Now we're just going to head down this hill here. Again, so many mature trees here, so many beautiful trees. Again, we're going to see another Freemasons symbol right there. And we're just going to take a walk now. We're just going to walk to the other side of the row of headstones here, because there is really one headstone that I want to show anybody who's watching this video. It's the headstone for George Yee, Y-E-E, and I hope I'm saying that name correctly. And I'm going to start telling you about Mr. Yee right now, because there's a lot to unpack, and you'll understand the significance once we get down. There's a sign there by his gravesite, and I don't know if the family put it there or if the city of Edmonton put it there, but it tells the story of George Yee and how he came to Canada. It's fascinating. So the head tax was imposed on immigrants from China and was intended as a means to restrict Chinese from entering into North America from 1885 to 1923, originally costing $50, but by 1903 the tax increased to $500. The 13-year-old George Yee arrived in Canada just a month before the head tax was imposed by Canadian Immigrant Act, which effectively excluded him from the Canadian Society in 1924. George Yee was chosen by his village elders to go to Canada to make a better life for himself and support his family and the community in China. On arrival, he worked as a laborer in the segregated Chinese communities in Victoria and Vancouver. It took him until 1936, 13 years to pay off the $500 tax debt. Through an arranged marriage in 1941, George Yi married Yun Lorraine Lim, a 17-year-old. She was born in Cumberland, BC, and had returned from China, where she had lived with her family since 1928, following the death of her father in Cumberland. Mr. Yi purchased a 3-acre lot in Black Diamond, Alberta in the late 1930s and raised 7 children. They had a market garden, a greenhouse, and some cattle, and operated a small shingle mill. The Yi family was one of only 3 Chinese families in town. George would drive his truck between the local communities of the foothills, selling his produce. He became a Canadian citizen in 1958. The market garden was sold in 1973, and the Yi family were reunited in Edmonton, Alberta. Wonderful story about the Yi family, specifically about George Yi. Again, I don't know who put up this signage, if it was the family or the city, but I'm so happy they did, because it really tells an incredible story of George Yi, how he came to Canada, how hard he worked for his family, and there's some lovely pictures on the signage again. Again, thank you to everybody who has followed this venture. Come on the Edmonton Cemetery tour with me. If you want to see more, please like and follow, leave some comments, and listen to my podcast, Haunted Canada, as well. Thanks again, everyone. Have a good night.